Okay, everybody, now that we have a scan acquired in 3ds Clinic and now loaded into Alphabyte, we'll walk through how we go through what we call the workflow wizard. And this is something that you can toggle on and off by going into the settings of Alphabyte if you'd like to minimize the amount of forced stepwise walkthroughs. However, having done this thousands of times myself, I still leave this as enabled when we talk about this walkthrough overlay or this wizard, because whether or not it takes 2 steps or 7 steps, it really saves me, precious seconds and minutes on the back end just by leaving it enabled, especially if you run an efficient practice where a lot of things are delegated. A lot of this initial setup from the crown size pre-selection and the initial preoperative crown preparation guidance can be delegated to a clinical assistant that can run the scanner, acquire the initial data, and do the initial crown selection steps up to the point where you're ready to sit down with the handpiece and begin preparing that tooth. So you can toggle these on and off, but I prefer to leave it on, and I'll show you with the workflow overlay turned on, because the first thing it's prompting me to do is select with my left click mouse button the center of tooth B, which is the tooth that we designated as the treatment target. So we're going to click the center of tooth B, and after a single left click mouse activation, we'll see that Alphabyte is cycled through all the known sizes in the Kinder Crowns inventory, which is analogous to the prefabricated inventory that exists in reality that you can order from our crown partner. And it's going to propose, driven by AI, the best fit size for that particular space. And it's also going to give me a couple of tools that I can start manipulating, which you see me activating with my left mouse button, this blue wheel, and that allows me to rotate it around that axis. I can grab this green arrow and I can shift that crown in a buccal direction, or the red arrow allows me to shift it to the mesial distal. Now, what's on the screen right now is some explanation as to what these red arrows and green arrows and blue wheels do. But all we have to do in this step 2 of 7 is center this digital crown proposal that's analogous to the Kinder Crown solution over this target tooth, which is kind of yellower ivory color in the background. As you see, we start to see kind of a superimposed speckling effect here between the digital crown in gray and the natural tooth in yellow-white. And all we need to do is make sure that it's roughly in the middle of the treatment tooth. We're not going to worry about perfecting it just yet. That's the beauty of the workflow overlay wizard that lets us get good but not dwell on the great until we get to the final refinement screen. So I'm going really slowly through this workflow wizard. And as you get more familiar with it, as we can demonstrate in later videos, this entire process should take on the order of 20 to 30 seconds per tooth. So this is not minutes of downtime messing with this computer. Again, this is stuff that can be delegated to a staff member if you choose to operate that way, or done way in advance of a procedure. So it's already set, ready to go for the actual crown procedure appointment. So once we have it roughly centered, we click the next button and it brings me to the next prompt, which opens up the view on the next panel down here. So while we see the crown superimposed with the target treatment area on the left screen, in the bottom right, we start to see what we are going to designate as the mesial distal width boundaries of this treatment tooth without the crown in the way. So as you see these dark black lines, think of them like dental floss, because we're going to start repositioning these lines such that they fall right between the interproximal contacts of the neighboring teeth. And we're going to modify that by dragging these cyan colored arrows, which have changed from red. Now we're in this teal or cyan color. And as I click and drag that arrow on the left side screen, you'll see the black line on the bottom right panel start to move around. And as we move that cyan arrow, you'll see the box size start to increase and decrease. And as the size of that bounding box increases and decreases, you'll see the automated crown proposal start to change. Basically, Alphabyte tells you which crown is the largest crown that will fit within the boundaries as defined by these lines, as defined by this box, which ultimately is proposed by the computer but controlled and validated by you, the provider. So we initially, when we get to this screen, all we're doing is not trying to perfect it. We're just trying to make sure that the black lines fall between the teeth just like they were dental floss. And that will define what the boundary for our crown size should really be. So that's really it for this one.